Hey everybody, Shane here, Shoebox Legends. Thanks for joining me today for a video response episode here on the channel. This one is going out to my buddy Dan at Ol Sarge Collects. Great channel that should have way more subscribers than he does. Although, to be fair, he's relatively new and growing quickly, which I love to see. So Dan recently surpassed 100 subscribers. He's well past that now. And he's celebrating with a video response. He has asked us to show some cards that we were inspired by other YouTube channels to add to our collections. That's something that happens to me on the regular. So I've got plenty of examples for you, Dan. Gonna look at a few today. Some that I've shown on the channel before, but it's been a while. And then at least a couple others, maybe more, that'll be brand new and never before shown on the channel. So I'm really excited to get to this. I love the constant circle of inspiration that this platform is for those of us that collect. And let's turn the camera around now and get into some examples of that inspiration. Stay tuned. All right, we've got a very Dan approved, at least I feel so, background up here while I gab through a brief intro. But we've got the Rhode Island state flag, still my one and only authentic 1800s Allen and Ginter card, which Dan generously sent to me in a care package recently. And then a 1924 Buck Trout Inventors Thomas Edison on the right there. Those two cards kind of seem right up Dan's alley if you've watched his channel at all. So I thought those would be good to put up. And now we're going to get into the inspiration. And I just want to say at the outset, I want to keep this from being a 30-minute long VR, which it easily could be. So if I don't mention your channel for some reason, it's not that I'm not inspired by you. I am constantly inspired on a daily basis by all of the channels that I subscribe to here on the platform. It's one of my favorite things about being on YouTube. But in the interest of time, I'm going to limit it to 7 channels for this VR. And we're going to start with the channel that I knew I had to name first, Those Back Pages. My buddy Eric, knew Eric back in the day in the hobby, in the world of like card blogs many years back. And long story short, during COVID, kind of got to wondering what he was up to. And I stumbled upon his YouTube channel in the early days of COVID lockdown, had a ton of time on my hands, and started going through his videos, starting all the way at the beginning with the oldest video first and just cranking through them. I would lay in bed at night with some headphones on, just kind of learning, honestly, really learning. And it's a tremendous amount of knowledge that you can pick up from watching his channel. Of course, Eric likes the expression, share your knowledge, and he does probably the best job of that of anyone that I know, and has been a huge influence on my collection. I consider him sort of like a cardboard mentor almost of sorts. And one of the cards that I learned about in the early days of watching his videos was the Topps Fire Flame Parallel from 2018. And as a result, I picked up this Juan Soto rookie card. So I learned from Eric that these are retail exclusives that came out in 2018. And they have this red, super sharp rainbow foil, really bright background. And it looks particularly good with team color matching, teams that have red in them. And with this being Juan Soto's rookie year, ended up grabbing one of these. So this was directly a result of Eric's influence, and even picked up the Shohei Ohtani version of this card as well, which I have ungraded, and would not have known about that parallel or picked up those cards were it not for Eric. And as an example of how inspiration can evolve to something more, we've really become friends now a couple years later. And I talk to Eric frequently, and he is still to this day making me a more knowledgeable collector on a regular basis. And I showed an example of that just recently with this Bobby Witt Jr. short print card from 2022. I only learned about the existence of this card because of my relationship with Eric and him mentioning it in a text thread that I'm in. And we got to talking about it. I learned a little bit more and really became attracted to this card, went out and found my own copy. In fact, I think Eric may have even sent me the link to the copy that I ended up purchasing. So I thought that was the appropriate channel to start with because, Eric was one of the first people to really influence and inspire me as far as shaping my collection, and he continues to do so to this day. So huge shout out to Eric. Next up, we got Ed, who is known here on YouTube as Wesker Griff. Been on the platform for forever. And somebody whose videos I also found in the early days of COVID and just started cranking through. Just a genuinely awesome human being, Phillies fan, passionate collector, sports, non-sports, gets into all kinds of stuff. Amazing channel, and I've gotten to know Ed a little bit better as well. Big music fan, and a concert attendee, which I can relate to as well. And Ed is a giant Juan Soto fan, and he inspired me to purchase one particular Juan Soto card, and this is the one. From 2020 Topps Chrome, it's the short print Juan Soto that has the bat drop image variation on it. So this is a scene from the 2019 World Series where he hit a huge clutch home run to eventually deliver a World Series title in the end to the Washington Nationals. It's definitely, I would say, maybe the high point of his career to date. And I just think it's great that Topps commemorated that moment on a short print, refractor that looks this beautiful, and went out and grabbed one because Ed convinced me. He refers to Juan Soto and this moment in particular as the reason why Juan Soto is the man who saved baseball. So love that card, and thank you, Ed, for the inspiration on that one. And it goes without saying, but I'm going to leave links below to all 7 of these channels that I'm mentioning today. So please, if you're not subbed to any of these people, definitely check them out. They are worth your time, and they've clearly been worth my time and inspired me greatly in my collecting. So shout out to Ed. We're going to get into some vintage next. It's not all going to be modern here. And this next one is a card that I was inspired to purchase due to seeing it on the Card Wolf channel here on YouTube. CW, who runs that channel, does a lot of pack rips, but he sometimes shows mail days and just singles that he acquires for his collection as well. And he had shown off this card maybe a year or longer now ago, and I just fell in love with it immediately. I'm sure I knew this card existed at some point in my collecting career, but I hadn't really thought about it in a long time. And seeing CW's example and hearing his rationale behind why this card is just so awesome, which it clearly is, I was sold on it and began to look for my own copy immediately. And so now I have this card number 1 in the 1973 Topps baseball set. Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, and Willie Mays, 3 of the all-time great sluggers on one card. Just absolutely love it. And I can say, with confidence that card would not be in my collection if it wasn't for CW and his great video on it and his continued influence and inspiration in terms of how I collect. So huge shout out to CW. Next up, another hobby buddy of mine that I consider really a friend, even outside the hobby at this point, Doug over at Decon's Cardboard. He has an amazing channel, a great collection, a great sense of humor, as those of you who have seen his Dougie K alter ego videos can attest to. But more than anything, I personally think Doug has an amazing eye for quality, interesting cardboard. And I have 2 examples actually for Doug of how he's influenced me. The first one is a card from the 1800s. And I was looking for a card of this particular player because he was a Triple Crown winner in the 1800s. And I had found this card on eBay. It was up at auction and I was watching it, ended in a few days. And I kid you not, I think it was the exact same week that I was watching this card and it was up at auction. Doug released a video on this set. So here's the card. It's the 1888 Scraps Tobacco James Tip O'Neill card, one of the oldest baseball cards in my collection. And Doug did a tremendous video about this set. I think he picked up 2 singles, if I recall, and kind of did some diving in and some detective work on the origin of these cards, and ultimately made the claim, which I agree, that they were pack issued and some of the first pack issued baseball cards or sports cards. And so I was immediately sold. I was already interested in this card and considering bidding on it. But as soon as I saw Doug's video, I knew I had to make a run at this James O'Neill. And so it's one of my favorite cards that I've acquired over the course of the last year. And it would not have been acquired if it wasn't for Doug and his inspiration. So thank you for that, Doug. And then another card that Doug has an exact copy of, and as soon as I saw it on his channel, I immediately began looking for my own. Took me about 6 months to finally land one, but I'm so happy to have it. I've never shown it on the channel before. It's the T207 brown background Jack Barry card. Look at that beautiful, beautiful card. I'm going to do a follow-up episode on this card, so I'm going to save a lengthy summary about Jack Barry and his life and career for that video. I think Doug did a good job summarizing it anyway, and I've since learned even more about him. But suffice it to say, I wanted this card because it's absolutely beautiful. And I think that was the reason Doug was originally attracted to it as well. I just love the contrast between that bright player uniform, that really interesting fielding pose against the dark background. It's just an absolutely gorgeous, like aesthetically pleasing card. And it's one of my favorite tobacco era cards in my entire collection. And Doug, I can say with 100% certainty and confidence that had I not known you and had I not known about your channel, I wouldn't probably be aware of this beautiful card, and I certainly wouldn't own my own copy. So every time I see this card or take it out to enjoy it, I think of Doug. So Decon's Cardboard, thank you for your inspiration. Next, another hobby buddy of mine, someone who I feel like I talk about frequently, but he's just become a great friend, and that's Dylan over at Double D Vintage Baseball Cards. And I struggled a little bit with how to approach the Dylan portion of this VR because honestly, I feel like we are in a vicious cycle of inspiration between the two of us. We are constantly inspiring each other and helping each other kind of tune our collections and improve our collections. And it's just great. And of course, what I ultimately decided on is if you know Dylan, you know that he's known for one thing above all else, and that is he loves his gloriously centered vintage baseball cards. And so while I've always been a fan of centering, he has definitely inspired me to really crank it up a notch. And so I have a card here today that just came in, have not shown it on the channel yet. I'm really happy to show it off. And it's a well-centered mid-grade copy that I picked up in the same vein that you would see Dylan approach these cards. So it is the 1966 Topps Joe Morgan All-Star Rookie, a card that I have had on my radar for a while. Spoiler, this one is going to be on the channel again because it's on my 50 for 2023 list. So it will be appearing for that project, but didn't want to wait any longer to unveil it. And this, to me, looks like the type of card that Dylan would be going after if he was buying a 66 Topps card. It's got that Double D approved centering. It was had for pretty cheap because of the relatively low grade, well under $100, but maybe the best second baseman in the history of baseball. He's in the conversation anyway, and just a gorgeous copy that I am super happy with. Dylan, it's been great learning from you, and I know you've mentioned being inspired by me and learning from me as well, but I assure you that it's a two-way street, and you have inspired and shaped and molded my collection for the better in the same way that I've helped you out with yours. So can't tell you how much I appreciate it, and figured this was the perfect card for Dylan over at Double D Vintage Baseball Cards. And next up, we have a channel that you may not have heard of. His sub count is a little bit lower, and I hope to see it continue to grow, which it has been, which is just fantastic. And that is my friend Jason over at Contrarian Cards. I have so much in common with Jason and his approach to the hobby. He has like an analytical, almost like business-minded approach to how he views his collection and how he can use elements of his collection that he's ready to move on from to make his collection better. And he's always sort of thinking through improvement and tuning and putting thought into why he's acquiring cards. I just really enjoy his thought process and his videos. And another thing I like about him, he's all over the map, just like I am. So he's shown a lot of like movie star cards from back in the day, from the glory days of Hollywood in the 40s and 50s. You know, he has some Elizabeth Taylor cards that he's gotten graded. And Jason was a huge inspiration in me landing this Marilyn Monroe card for my own collection, which is one that I've shown off before. Just love the image. This is exactly how I think of Marilyn Monroe. And I got this to pair with my Joe DiMaggio black and white card, to kind of make them a cardboard couple, so to speak. But I would not have looked into movie stars and Hollywood stars on vintage cardboard had it not been for Jason and his influence and inspiration. So Jason, thank you so much. And I actually have a second card for Jason as well. He's been a big influencer and inspirer for me to get into Star Wars card collecting. Love the film franchise, love the intellectual property that is the Star Wars universe. Always have since I was a kid, and I knew there were cards out there, but I didn't realize just how deep a rabbit hole the Star Wars card ecosystem was until I got into Jason's videos. And so he's really opened my eyes to some amazing Star Wars sets. And I have a great Star Wars card here that I've never shown on the channel that I want to unveil as a tribute to Jason. And it's this 2017 Topps Tech Darth Vader. It's the orange magma diffractor, which I know is a mouthful, but these, if I can get you to see it here in the upper right, these are, it's not really showing, but they're numbered to 25. You can see it there in the upper right. So a very difficult card. It's an acetate card, which I absolutely love. And yeah, Jason's Star Wars knowledge and Star Wars collection is off the charts. He probably, I mean, I'm not very well, I'm not immersed in that world other than Jason, but he definitively has the best Star Wars card collection of anyone that I know. And I'm constantly drawing inspiration from his videos. And this is a perfect one to include in this VR for Dan, because I know in turn, I have inspired Dan to get into some Star Wars cards, some newer modern Star Wars cards that he may not have been aware of before. And so that just goes to show you, like I said during the intro to the VR, it's a constant circular inspiration just going around between all of these channels. And just over the course of the last year or two, I've been inspired on modern Star Wars cards by Jason, and then I've turned around and in turn inspired Dan. And so it's just really cool to see the hobby and the network here on YouTube work that way. And then last but not least, I'm going to close this VR out with a teaser that I have for a future video that's coming to the channel soon. So I did a live stream a few weeks back for the 4 Collectors channel for their big launch of their new channel. And in that live stream, along with me and a couple hobby buddies, was Hugo over at Signs of the Pastime, which I will say is one of the most criminally undersubscribed channels on the YouTube platform. My personal opinion, what I do here is easy. I just press record on a camera and show off cards and talk about them. Hugo, what he produces is like art, like documentary quality card videos. He is going on location to places where this baseball history took place and bringing the cards with him. He puts in a tremendous amount of editing and production value, and you feel like you're watching a travel documentary about sports and sports cards when you're watching Hugo's channel. I cannot recommend it enough. And one of the things that he brought to the live stream to talk about during our hour were these cards here. These 2001 Fleer Greats of the Game autographs. And they put this set out covering all kinds of baseball players from way back in the day, all the way up to modern times. And there's even some other non-baseball subjects that have these autos. But what Hugo discussed and what I immediately was inspired by is the Negro League players who were included on this checklist. So this is a Wilmer Fields, a Negro League great, on-card autograph that he signed back in 2001 before passing away. And it absolutely blew my mind to learn that there were on-card autographs of Negro League stars that I could pick up on eBay relatively easily and add to my collection. This card was under $20 to add to my PC. I'm just so proud to have it, and I'm gonna cut it there because Hugo inspired me so much with these cards that I've picked up not only Wilmer Fields here, but a small handful of these, which I'll be kind of going over in detail in an upcoming video. So more to come on these amazing autographs of these Negro League stars. But a huge thank you to Hugo, for having one of the best channels on this platform as far as cards go, in this collector's opinion, for being a great guy overall and a good friend, and for introducing me to these amazing on-card autographs. These are probably the coolest autographs to me that I've picked up in recent memory in my collection. So there you have it, Signs of the Pastime, the 7th and final channel that I'm going to touch on today that has inspired me and my collecting. We're going to wrap it up there, but I think this has clearly painted the picture that one of the best things about this platform is just constantly being inspired by all of your great content. It's one of the main reasons we all make content, so we can share our collections and our knowledge with others. And clearly, by participating in this community over the last 2.5 years, my collection is so much better off for it. So great idea for a VR, Dan. Huge congrats again on surpassing 100 subs. I'm very confident you're going to be at 1,000 before you know it. And to everybody else, I appreciate you stopping by to check out this VR. and I'll be back soon with some more content. Take care and enjoy the hobby. See ya.